game of the evening when it comes to NA, and spawning over in the bottom right-hand side, playing for Team Alpha X, it is Vindicta.
And up here in the top left-hand side of the map, we have the red Terran player from Alpha X Esports. He is Future.
This is going to be an interesting one, because even though I said I thought Future would win, that is purely because even though I feel he's inconsistent, I feel that Vindicta is even more inconsistent. Like, I've seen this kid do magic, but I've also seen him, like, blunder pretty hard. And I know, like, he started, well, when I say started college, I know he's in college and doing some good stuff over there. And obviously, you know, balancing the pro gamer life with the studies and what have you. But that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, you know, Ben, actually, with the predictions and stuff, after you said, you know, 2-0 for Future, my gut instinct was actually like, you know what, 2-0 for Future also. And it's not because I think, like, Vindicta is a bad player or anything, but I do think Vindicta, like you said, has had, like, rocky performances. And here's the key thing, I think, that actually pulls Vindicta in to a lot, like, back in from games that really don't look that great for him. He is like a late game specialist. He is extremely good at really, really late game play when it comes to big armies, positional play with those large armies, doing consistent harassment. Especially, he loves, like, nukes. Nukes are like his special, you know, mono battle units. Like, it doesn't make ghosts, he just makes nuclear missiles. But I do think in TVT, it's not easy to get to that stage. There's so many little ways you can just fall behind or die. And I think Future is actually quite good at those early game things. I think stylistically, Future has an edge over Vindicta. So as much as I said, like, 2-1 for Future, I'm actually, like, out of my gut level, I actually do agree with you. I think Future has a big edge coming into this.
I'm already, like, so I'm going to get into, like, build orders and stuff when it comes to TVT. So Future opted for the expansion build and didn't SCV scout at all. That is crazy greedy, but he got away with it. Now, I don't know how well these players know each other. I know they're of the same team. I know they're both USA. They must play against each other quite a bit. Because to get away with that, that is super ballsy. You have to know that your opponent's not proxying you, otherwise you are instantly dead. Vindicta, on the other hand, double gas, and he SCV scouted, so he went for the super duper safe play, and also SCV scouted. So in terms of, like, who's actually at an advantage thus far in this game, Future. But he is doing something that is a little bit wild and a little bit ballsy here with this proxy starport. So we're probably going to see, oh, it's a Liberator. Okay, interesting for sure.
Yeah, the Liberator is going to take a little bit longer to produce, but it might be able to time it out with something else going on. And yeah, I mean, like, this is definitely akin to Future style, especially, like, taking some risks here and there. And to your credit, what you were saying, like, I think that these guys actually do practice. Like, a Future is exactly the kind of guy who will hit up a lot of the other NA players for, like, just custom game practice. Let's grind out some TVTs and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually both know each other pretty well.
Yeah, like, build order-wise, this definitely benefits Future, especially if he can get damage done. But if he doesn't, we can say, like, oh, having a Raven is obviously a really good thing to have on your side of the map. So Future, he went for Liberator, 6 Hellion, skipped to Cyclone entirely. If he was getting, like, Cloak Banshee or anything like that, he'd actually be straight up dead. So his build is absolutely ballsy, absolutely greedy. And now he runs in with the Hellions. He's going to go for the Cyclone immediately. Has the Liberator in position at the natural as well, of all things, which is definitely unusual. Like, everything that he's doing here is very unusual, but does get quite a bit of Harvester damage done. Gets away with the Liberator as well. It is on half health, but you could say that's quite a successful attack so far for him.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Up 8 workers after having killed 7 is definitely not a bad place. And now with the Raven also coming on out, it's also worth mentioning that Vindicta didn't just lose Harvesters, he also did lose one of the Cyclones. So, and there's a bit of his firepower also gone as well. Probably a little bit difficult to get too much damage done with a counterattack, and he's just going to send the Reaper straight across the map instead.
Yeah, there's so again, I'm going to be super analytical.
No, I love it.
So Vindicta, even though he lost a Cyclone, he made a second Cyclone, which is kind of like, what do you need a second Cyclone for? The answer is like absolutely nothing. So it is very unusual by him because he just slowed down his tank production for no real reason. Future, on the other hand, he skipped the Cyclone entirely because unless you're not worried about taking damage, there's no need to make one. And Future, he isn't going to be able to pump out Vikings from a reactor. I say that, but he's actually got a second starport in his base. So this is a TY variant. He's got all 4 gases. This is very much going to be a 2-base all-in. So eventually you'll be able to add on things like a Liberator or a Banshee, because you have the Tech Lab on the starport already. But Vindicta has to find out that this is happening fairly soon. Otherwise, he's going to have a very scary army knocking at his front door.
Well, he's actually going to be the one knocking at Future's front door first as he does start to move forward. Future currently has his siege tanks unsieged, moving over to the front. This might be a normal place to start thinking about putting something up, but he has to realize that this army's over here. He sees the Vikings and the Raven. That's going to be a huge signal to Future. He immediately sieges up a bunch of his siege tanks, but his gas geyser is going to be under assault, and he already loses the air wars, losing that first Viking immediately.
Yeah, that was definitely a bit of a blunder by Future there, losing one of those Vikings, and now he's getting his gas denied quite a bit here. This is a very nice position from Vindicta. He is supply blocked behind this, and he's actually going into mech with it too. Like, we are seeing a very unusual TVT. Like, the fact that Vindicta's doing what he's doing against a player that's 2-base all-inning him is very scary. And yeah, we do... Oh, actually takes out the Raven of Future as well. I mean, Raven's lost on both sides, but Future going for no third CC with this and just adding on a second and third barracks. Crazy play by him. Crazy.
Yeah, Future's going to try and cut this push off and say, okay, you can't really leave anymore. I'm going to prevent you from easily escaping. Takes out one of the Hellions. Remember that the Vikings are being reinforced over here for Future. They are not being reinforced for Vindicta. So a lot of the Vikings already going down there for Vindicta. His reinforcements just retreat on home. He accepts the losses, but these are a lot of losses to take.
This is a super amount of losses, and Vindicta, unfortunately for him, he's transitioning into mech, which is, you know, very immobile. It certainly lacks the anti-air. And Future, he's actually pushing across the map. He's almost playing like TVP-esque in the way that he went 3 barracks, then he's putting a third on location and then pushing forward and such. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ravi, I like it for Future, but he is making the game a little bit difficult on himself, it must be said.
All right, well, let's see if Vindicta can get into a good position here, as we do have 2 siege tanks sieged up over by that 3rd base location. Future goes for a scan just to confirm what exactly is up in the main base, and he sees all of the factories now. So Vikings gonna move on forward. Future does have a lot of damage already taken on his Vikings, and it looks like he is gonna lose the Viking war, especially with the added damage of the Cyclone. So Future just getting in range of a gas geyser. This is going to be about the most amount of damage you should be able to get done here for a while.
If Future assesses this correctly, he can actually move everything closer here, because these tanks of Vindicta are out of range, and this scan, like it was... like this tank is obviously closer now for Vindicta, but this is still a scary position for Vindicta to defend from.
Yeah, gas guys are actually going to start getting repaired back up. Future needs one more scan to actually take it out. Sends a Viking in to go kill SCVs with some harassment. All right, behind the natural, when you have the inferior number of Vikings, this is going to be kind of a forfeit of its life, most likely. But hey, deny some mining, 3 workers killed. That's something.
Yeah, at this point, I really want to... In fact, okay. Future sees the Liberator, he backs out of there. This is a very nice retreat by him. I felt he could have committed more with the tanks. That's one thing we always see from Terran players that are really good, right? Like, they'll always abuse tanks as much as they can, but here I think he gave Vindicta a little bit of time. If you're clicking on these tanks from Vindicta, you can see that the range, they could have been sneaking over to the right side quite a bit more here, quite easily. But all things said and done, the mech player stays alive, which is a really big deal, honestly, as that push timing is usually one where the mech player suffers.
Okay. Well, with more factories being added on, Vindicta's definitely going to get to go into his good old mech style in full force. Future anticipating the positioning of this Liberator. Vindicta has a pretty quick reaction, though, keeps the Liberator alive over in the dead airspace. And I'm not even sure that Future has any Vikings still left out since he lost all of them from earlier. So a Liberator will be a thorn in Future's side for a little bit longer.
And you know, the very standard scout starport was enough to figure out these Hellions were coming, which is a nice spot for Future. We'll take most of them out with only 2 SCV losses.
Oh, nice.
It's that kind of thing that can really make you just instantly go for the counterattack, because Mech, even though Hellions aren't the most useful unit in an army fight, when they turn into Hellbats, they are all you have for your meat shield.
Yeah, I mean, they are the core of that mech force. It's the replaceable unit that you can continuously put at the front lines. But without that, I mean, we are actually down to just, 7 Hellions as Future moves across the map. And a couple of those Hellions are actually just going in for the counterattack. So this will likely get a lot more damage than the last set of Hellions. But is he actually going to have enough to deal with the main army on the other side of the map? Future poised to try and move in on that 4th base.
And those 2 Ravens with a decent amount of energy, and oh my goodness, when the bio player has more tanks than the mech player, it is not a good sign. The 4th immediately shut down for Vindicta, so this is a nice move by Future. Future, he's even close to 2-2 before 1-1 is really much on the way for Vindicta for his mech. Future, he's playing really well this game. Economically, army-wise, getting out the early Ravens, he's done a lot of good stuff against mech.
Yeah, doing a great job just keeping Vindicta in check over here. Vindicta is going to try and look to move forward a couple of these siege tanks. He does have a sensor tower that sees that the main army is outside of his 3rd base now, so maybe an opportunity for him to try and reestablish that 4th base during this assault. He's going to have to reposition a lot of his army over to this base. Only the Vikings are over here. The siege is coming in a bit late, and that means Future gets the full siege up over here. The command center has to lift, and Vindicta's down to 2 bases right now.
Yeah, and look, Future's got units in position for this run by as well. Now he's got his sensor towers up. He's just all over this game. I mean, this Liberator harass is really, really nice by Vindicta, but it's kind of like when you're getting absolutely punched in the face and then you just do a little poke back, it's not working out. This Doom Drop in the main is pretty erratic, pretty reckless, but the thing is, Future can afford to do this kind of stuff right now. He's even making a lot of SCVs behind this, so I don't mind. And actually trading out the bio against the Vikings, oh my god, what a trade for Future. That is so good for him.
Yeah, and he has the command center landed again, so it ends up taking a lot more damage to those siege tanks yet again. Liberator is gonna maybe get taken out. Oh no, the Marine's on hold position. Oh well, and those 2 Vikings actually even finish off the Ravens. So Vindicta buys himself time, but that's about it. And what is he going to be able to do with that time? Because Future is going to have another army barreling his way in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, Future, he's not got stuck on anything, right? Yeah, he's making a lot of bio, but he's getting 3-3 upgrades. He's also been mass expanding behind this, getting extra orbitals as well. I really like his play. He's done exactly what you should do against a mech player, which is smother them and never stop smothering them. And Vindicta, he's not really had room to breathe this game. He's been doing a lot of the cool things. By the way, this scouting starport, holy crap, is that MVP. It's just like a lighthouse, and he keeps running the Hellbats right past them. No concussive shell, by the way. That could definitely help things a little bit against these Hellions.
Yeah, looks like he'll get away without it this time, but main army is pushing in yet again, and it's just the siege tanks over here. Disable comes out on one of the siege tanks, and well, there's just enough bio to ignore the rest of them. GG gets called. Future takes the first.
Over in the top right-hand side of Oxide, as the Red Terran, it is Future.
And down here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Terran player. He is Vindicta.
I'm very curious to see what openings they both go for this game, because again, these guys know a lot more about each other than I know about their TVTs and such. So Future, the game before, he went for the expand without scouting at all. Like that is like, say if you go up against a Ziggy or something, that's suicide, man. You die instantly to the proxy 2 racks, but maybe he knows his opponent so well. And so far, Vindicta, he's gone for 2 games now with the double gas opening and the SV scout. So I don't know, maybe Vindicta played against Ziggy like 20 times, too many, and now he's just paranoid about everything. But it feels very much immediately that Future is cutting a lot of corners, and Vindicta, he's taken every corner as safely as he can. He's kind of like the student on the drive, like with the driving instructor, where it's like every little speed bump, it's like going 5 miles per hour kind of thing up to it and stuff.
No, I think it's a good way to put it. And I really do feel like Future has always been, like, since 2015, like, I started seeing Future starting to come up, playing, like, show matches versus Scarlet back in the day. Like, he has always been a bit of a risk taker. He loves putting himself out there and trying out, like, things that are, honestly, like, you look at them and they're like gambles, and to him it's like, no, this is a calculated risk. With the information I have, I think he's like, I think I can specifically get away with it. It's not just I think there's a chance of it. He thinks I will get away with it against this player. Yeah,
and again, like, the reason I wanted to put into it that he probably knows Vindicta a lot better than I do. He's actually, like, they're gambles, they're risks, but they're risks that are super duper paying off. And that might be just because Future knows him so well. And that is definitely the kind of edges that you need to get in a series. And here, like, he has his SCV ready to greet the SCV and the Reaper, kills an SCV when he's already going for an expansion build. And, like, Vindicta's expansion, it's, it's not on the way. In fact, why is his expansion so late? Huh.
I mean, his factory was a lot earlier than Future's as well. So I think he was just doing the factory before the command center, right?
You do, but his first Hellion was already out, which is so your first Hellion starts when you're, like, making the CC. In this case, the second Hellion was in production when the CC wasn't even started. So Vindicta messed up his build a little bit, I think, here. Which is unfortunate, and he lost a Reaper. So far, Future has got every edge in the world this game. Even though it's just an edge, it's something.
Yeah. Well, Future's waiting until he has enough units to actually contest this minor harassment over on the low ground. But Future actually has a Reaper on the other side of the map. He's going to be able to kill one SCV. There's 2 Marines over here, but Future, not having to micro on his own side of the map right now because he's just kind of waiting it out, can just focus all of his attention on this Reaper, delays this command center even further, and oh my god, he's going to go for the loop around, but the Hellions come back.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this maybe for all the wrong reasons. Like, so you're seeing this tank production already from both of them. That makes me think that they both kind of want to go for a push. Very often, like, the Cyclone's good for defensive purposes. Oh, I guess the Hellion as well. That's nice. But yeah, the Cyclone is defensive. Oh, so Vindicta, okay, he went tank into Cyclone. Just a bizarre way of doing things, honestly.
Yeah. Well, he's, I guess the Cyclone will still have value in at least being able to do some of those lock-ons for the Ravens and Vikings and stuff that get a little too far forward. But well, he sees that there's a decent number of Marines out over here for Future that are pushing very far out right now.
Certainly are. Ooh, faking cloak here. Now, this was a big deal that he actually upgraded the cloak before the Reaper hopped in there. So Vindicta, he has to respect that. Whether he knows it for sure and saw the Raven pop out, that's a different story. Okay, medevac drop with 8 Marines. This is risky. This is ballsy. Going for a third base while you're doing it. Future, on the other hand, we'll see when his third base does start, because I say that and then he popped down second and third barracks of the game, but he should put down a third base now. Like, honestly, it would be the right move. And okay, he does go for it. Good.
Yeah, and I think at this point you can already see just in the supply and the worker difference and everything else, Vindicta kind of has to take a risk right now, right? He's not looking to be in the best of positions. It's definitely not over by any means, but he really does need to get something done over here. So do a little drop harassment while also trying to expand a little quicker. Might be one of the ways you can try and come back in.
Getting a few SCVs is decent, but yeah, look at that workers tab. It's definitely a lead for Future. His third base is slower, so Vindicta going for a bit of the leapfrog tick. Oh my gosh, loses his medevac. Oh. That is a wounder.
Okay. Well, Future's a little bit further ahead in supply now, including army supply. That's going to be really painful. Don't even think there's a medevac out on the map anymore for Vindicta, and, well, I mean, I guess the bright side is this fight is going to happen without Stim, so at least you don't need the medevacs for that.
Yeah. not really that much happened in this TVT, but Future's got himself like almost a 30 supply lead, you know, and a more stocky army. Like, again, I'm not entirely sure of some of the moves that Vindicta was doing. Like, if you skip the cyclone, you know, don't skip the first cyclone and then go back into it, because that's just that's like playing a game of chicken and then just giving up right on the get-go. But Future, he's taken advantage of the fact that he's just got more of everything, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, Future goes for the siege jump, just barely outside of range of any of the buildings, or, of course, the siege tank there for Vindicta. So he's going to have to be careful, because remember, he is also closer to Vindicta's side of the map, so that means the Vikings come out a little faster here for Vindicta. And he can also repair up his Vikings, just Future can't, so got to be careful not to overstay your welcome. But I mean, Future, even just being over here, it's denying a third base from landing right now. Future is happily mining on his side of the map with no real worries or concerns.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the one little advantage that I saw that Vindicta might have is that he started 1-1 earlier, but I mean, there's nothing in it, right? There's absolutely nothing in it. Future, I guess he has to worry about, like, Medevac sneakily leaving this base, which is always a bit of a worry. But, like, how do you break out of this situation as Vindicta? Like, I really feel that Vindicta, he's definitely solid, but these build order choices are, they're so freestyly and not really like TVT is so linear in how you kind of have to play, even though there are a lot of build orders. The way that you interact and do them, there are certain rules that you have to follow.
All right, anti-armor missile going down on these Vikings over here for Vindicta, as Vindicta manages to snag the Raven at least, but loses quite a few of the Vikings and is going to be losing the Viking war now, as it's 5-3 for a bit. So Future going to be poaching around, looking for additional kills. Going to find a command center instead for a little bit. Vindicta decides to attack his own command center for a moment in a little bit of a missed micro moment. Oh my god, even lands the Vikings. Gets a tiny DPS lead on it. Might end up losing 2 more Vikings over there. So Future gets out of there, but it has reset the Viking count completely.
That was definitely an alpha play by Future, I feel. Like, that was 2 Vikings for 1, but alpha play. It's just showing who's in charge. And, you know, Future, he's doing a good job. He's scanning this arm, and he's like, okay, is there more? What do I have to worry about? But, yeah, look at the supply, man. 156 to 113, and Vindicta can't leave his base. This is like the big bully on the playground, man. Like, Vindicta can't do anything.
Oh, the Raven also going to end up falling there for Vindicta. The Cyclone that got the lock onto the Viking doesn't even manage to kill it. I know that Future had a couple SCVs here earlier on. I guess they did go home, but no repair going to come out on that Viking. Well, I like the medevac drop on the right-hand side to just get a better concave as he busts on out of here. He is going to be able to trade a lot more efficiently than he was probably hoping for originally, but is he just way too far behind now? Future on 4 bases. Vindicta finally establishing his third.
Definitely a nice bust out. Helped a lot with the medevacs, but you know when you see on the other side of the map, like 3 sensor towers, like really indicate your opponent's already on 4 bases at least? That's always so scary, man. Like, the fact that Vindicta has only been allowed to get out now, like, the saving grace is Future forgot his armory, but it makes sense. Like, he's done such a good job containing and making the game so difficult for Vindicta that a little slip up here, it's totally worth getting a 60 supply lead, you know? I'm worried for Vindicta at this point. It's very hard to defend on this map. I expect Future to scan this, kind of march over to the rocks and maybe start thinking about breaking those open. Oh, it's a rough one.
Yeah, he's going to do more or less just that. Starts poaching on forward, looking at that center area. We do have a sensor tower coming on up over here for Vindicta to try and get a better idea of where the army's coming. But I think he already knows that this army is at his front door, and that sensor tower, well, it sees the army and then goes down.
The sad thing about sensor towers, too, they cost almost as much as a tank kind of thing. Like, they're pretty expensive.
They're expensive.
So when you're already behind in this kind of thing, and this army's sharking about and ready to get you, oh, what a rough spot, man.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, what Vindicta is just hoping for is that he can continuously reposition himself into angles that it feels like Future won't be able to dive into, but this is just not going to be the map for it. A big concave over here from Future, moving in toward that natural expansion. A lot of the siege tanks for Vindicta not even able to participate. GG, Future